Okay, so as you guys can see, it's been a minute since I have dropped anything, but as you can see by the title and the thumbnail, you probably understand why. My name is Ryan Prophet, to those who don't know who I am. If you haven't already, there's so many of you guys who watch my content. Click the subscribe button, go ahead and like the video. Help me to further grow this channel. And without further ado, I'm just gonna get right into it. No need to stall, no need to wait. What the heck happened on January 19th? January 19th is when this is the most traumatic experience I probably had ever in my life. So the goal was to go to the Founders Conference, which was held in Fort Myers, Florida. And there was some great preachers there. We're talking about Voddie, Paul Washer, Joel Bleak. We got Tom Askell. So it was it was a stack card, and I wanted to go. It was going to be from Thursday, January 19th, all the way through Sunday. And I was riding with a friend of mine who used to go to my church, but he goes to another church, but we're cool. And his name is Jeremiah. And yeah, I remember praying that morning, telling God to keep me safe and to keep all of us safe who was going to be riding, and obviously going there and doing my prayers or whatnot. And it wasn't until 9 o'clock or so I got picked up. So now let's just say, fast forward, now we are on I-75. If you guys are not from Florida, that is going towards Naples, going towards Fort Myers. It's like a long strip heading towards Fort Myers. So we're driving on I-75. I believe the street is called like Alligator Alley or something like that. And I was in the back passenger seat. I had my blanket on. I had my headphones on. I was listening to the most peaceful music you can imagine. I was listening to like Poor Bishop Hooper. I was listening to the Psalms. In specific, before I went, I crashed and whatnot, I was listening to the Psalms 40. So I was like, man, I was chilling, man, and I was about to sleep and everything. And next thing you know, we're going like maybe 80 or so, on the street. Something happened where I felt like a jerk. We started swerving a little bit. And the next thing you know, apparently there was like a malfunction in the car, steering wheel disengaged, something happened. And the next thing you know, I just see us drifting. And we're going towards a grassy area. And I just see us, like, I look up and I'm seeing everything happening at this point. And I'm like, yo, we're about to start flipping. Like, the first thing that I thought, I obviously I was about to brace for impact, but I was like, bro, I think I'm about to die. Like, it was way too fast for me to even process anything. So next thing you know, we're on to the side of the grass. We just start flipping. We start flipping. People asked if I was conscious the whole time. I would say yeah, but maybe there was a moment where I temporarily blacked out, because it wasn't until like after the 7th flip that I may have gotten ejected out of the vehicle. Because the next thing I know, I open my eyes and I'm just like on the other side of the pavement, on the other side, like almost towards like opposite side of the highway. I was actually fairly close to the road. I was kind of like on the edge of the pavement, kind of grass area, and I was probably like 20 feet away from the car. And so I remember the car flipping, and apparently I flew out from the sunroof. And I'm not sure how I felt or whatnot. I literally, like, my brain didn't even allow me to like see or recognize, or my adrenaline was just pumping at that point. And I just remember opening my eyes and I'm just looking. It was like a whole movie, like, when you're playing like a Call of Duty campaign mission and like you get like shot down by a tank or something, you fly out and you're just like, you're looking around. That was kind of me. That's the best way to describe it. I'm literally looking everywhere and I'm just like, oh, I see myself like on the other side of the road. And then I notice my injuries. I have like cuts all over my legs. My ankle was looking banged up. I remember there was blood on my hands, and then I remember touching my nose and I felt like my nose was cut open. I ended up having to get stitches, and I was like, man, what the heck? And I remember at that point, like at the time I didn't know it was the wind being knocked out of me, but there was this immense pressure on my chest, the most immense pressure I've ever felt in my life. And I've gotten hit in the chest before, but this doesn't even compare. I remember my mouth was wide open, trying to gasp for air, and I couldn't do it for like I don't even know, like a good 15 seconds or so. Like, I was trying to gasp for air. And I remember Jeremiah, because he stayed in the car, he didn't get ejected. So Jeremiah ended up staying in the car, and he was running towards me. He was like, stay still, stay still. And then I remember falling onto the side like that. And then at that point, I'm taking short breaths. I was like, taking all of these short breaths. And at that moment, I thought I was going to die. Like, there was like this 50-50 in me. So it was like, my first prayers was like, you know, if this is the Lord's plan for me, to like, let it be done. You know, I mean, I was like, if you finish the work, I guess you finished the work in me. I was like, God, I guess you finished the work in me. Like, are you about to call me home? You know, I guess I'm about to go home. I kind of just accepted my fate. I'm looking at like all of my belongings, like my suitcase and everything just out the car. And I was like, man, I don't even care. Like, I was like, I'm about to go home. And I didn't have the time to think about like everything that I was about to leave behind, essentially. Cause I was like, you know, life is really just but a vapor. Like, one of these things that taught me, life is but a vapor. Like, I literally like experienced that. So yeah, you know, and I'm saying that, and as I'm breathing, I'm like, Romans 8:28. Romans 8:28. We know that all things happen for the good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So I'm looking at the situation. I'm like, you know, the Lord is so good. The Lord is so sovereign. He's in control. All things happen according to the counsel of his will. Like, this was, you know, there's good in this. There's a purpose for this. So I'm literally meditating and resting on God's sovereignty. And these are all the scriptures that are coming into my head regarding what was going on as I'm like literally taking all these short breaths. And yeah, there was times where I had to rebuke like the thoughts from like the enemy or my flesh. It was like, you know, for me to charge God or ask him why, or, you know, like kind of be like, how dare you? It's like, you know, why would I be going through something like this? And I would just rebuke it back with scripture. You know what I mean? I was just, all of the scriptures, not all of it, but obviously like many verses that just talk about God's sovereignty and him ultimately being in control, and how there's a purpose for all of this. All of that was in my head, and I didn't charge God. I was like, you know, this was like meant to be. Yeah, I was just centered. I was just dead set focused on it. My faith was not wavering in this moment, and it still hasn't to this day. There was also another fella in the car. His name was Philip. He was Jeremiah's friend. This was actually his first time in the United States. He ended up being ejected also. Just to briefly tell his story, he got ejected, and then he ended up going to the hospital suffering broken ribs and a cut liver. So he's going to be in bad shape for a minute. He has been discharged from the hospital, and as of now, I believe he is steady. He's in stable condition, but obviously in really bad shape. So yeah, I remember being on the ground, and there was a road ranger that went to the side. There's a nurse that ended up, like a bystander who ended up witnessing everything, ended up pulling over. The nurse came to help me out and just, you know, try to calm me down, you know, like, don't move. Because at that moment, while I was taking the short breaths, I was like, I was lacking oxygen. And the more I would try to breathe and gain more oxygen, the more painful it felt, the more my chest would tremble, the more like pressure if I felt. It was bad. So I just had to keep taking these short breaths. And at that point, I was like, bro, I'm gonna get up. Like, I need to move. Like, I wanted to do something, and I literally like tried to like I ended up like sitting up, because at that point I was laying down like this, and I was trying to sit up and like try literally walking in there like, don't move, and I was like, oh. And then I went back down. It was crazy. And then at that point, bro, I don't know where, state trooper pulled up really quickly. I don't know if they're nearby. The state trooper came really fast. Fire rescue ended up pulling up. Shout out to Apple. Shout out to my iPhone 14. Fire rescue pulled up and said, hey man, is this your phone? I said, yeah, why? He said, bro, we got the alert that, you know, to come here because of your iPhone. I was like, bro, that's crazy, because the iPhone now has crash detection. And literally, what I actually remember when I got ejected, that like my phone was like somewhere, it was nearby, but I remember it wasn't by me. And I remember hearing the emergency thing about to go off. So if you guys have an iPhone 14, crash detection, it may save your life one day if you're in the middle of nowhere and, you know, there's nobody else who's able to call. Apple got you. So that was pretty cool. Technology nowadays is crazy. And yeah, I remember at that point I was kind of relieved when, you know, the EMT pulled up and they checked my vitals and everything, and all my pulses and everything looked good. They were asking me a lot of questions, which was mad annoying because I was lacking oxygen and I didn't want to speak. And in my head, I was like, aren't you, when you're about to die, like they tell you to not talk much because, you know, you're losing more and more oxygen, like you're about to die. That's literally how I felt. And then I remember asking the dude that was telling me, I was like, bro, am I gonna die? He was like, of course not, you're good. And that didn't even reassure me anything, because I was like, of course he's gonna tell me I'm not gonna die. Like, why would he tell me I'm going to die? Make me just paranoid. Since we were kind of in the middle of nowhere, we had to wait for the helicopter. I had to get airlifted because there was no way we would be getting to the nearest hospital in adamant time due to our injury, so we had to get there fast. So we waited a good like 30 minutes for a helicopter to pull up. I ain't gonna lie, I thought it was gonna be like, you know when you guys see those, like a movie or those news when people get like lifted up like from the ladder and you get latched on up like that, you're elevated, like I thought that was gonna be me, but it wasn't me, you know. It didn't work that way, but it was still pretty cool. But I thought it was gonna be like that, which is funny. But yeah, I remember the helicopter pulled up and I was on a stretcher, and I remember when I was laying there, and when I'm going like onto the helicopter, I saw the propellers. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I went inside the helicopter. Philip was with me also, and everybody had the jumpsuits on. You know, they're setting me up, putting, you know, all these things on me. You know, they're giving me coats. I was like, "You good? You good?" I was like, "Yeah." So I thought it was dope. It literally felt like a Call of Duty rescue mission. Like, it was mad cool. I can't even lie. Even the helicopter ride itself, like that stuff was moving. It was mad unique. It was really, really cool. It was quite the experience. I'm not even gonna lie. Throughout my trauma, that was, you know, I was able to enjoy that. So yeah, I remember being in the hospital, and the first thing they did was stitch up my nose, and I asked for some meds. They gave me some meds. They did a CAT scan on me, and I'm pretty much just going to tell you what my injuries were. I just had abrasions pretty much all around my body, from like my hips to, well, mainly my legs and my ankle, my knee. I was banged up everywhere, but everything was pretty much bruises. The worst thing is a transverse process fracture, which is like, it's like a part of your spinal cord. It's not like an essential vital part of your spinal cord or your back, but like a couple of pieces got broken, like kind of on the left hand side. So that's going to heal on its own. I didn't need surgery for that. Obviously, I'm going to soon be going to like physical therapy or orthopedic care for that. But yeah, the Lord has really, is just a miracle that not only am I alive, but the fact that I don't have anything life altering or anything like detrimental to, like, man, I'm pretty much good. Like the Lord's sovereignty, the Lord's grace, the Lord's mercy, it's just, it's literally immeasurable, and it makes me speechless. It's grace. So fast forwarding, at that point I found out what my injuries were, and I was banged up, so I don't want to go too much into like how I was in the hospital, because it will just make it a really long video. But it was painful. I hated having to pee. TMI, I guess. Using the number 2, I didn't even eat that much, and I'm so glad that I didn't have to use it when I was in that situation, because I don't even want to think about it. Yeah, I can't even think about it. While I was at the hospital, I was able to speak to Voddie and Paul Washer. Oh my goodness, Lord sovereignty for real. How I was able to speak to them, Jeremiah ended up, because he was good, he didn't have anything vital where he had to like be in a hospital or anything, so he ended up going he went to the founders conference. And then I guess after the service or whatnot, because at this point it was Friday, and there's these panels where you can go and speak to the pastors and the speakers who were there, like I guess like a meet and greet or walk up or something. And he was like, "Bro, I'm in line to speak to Voddie right now. Do you want to talk to him?" I was like, "Yes." Like, what the heck, Voddie Baucham? Like, of course. And like, let's just say, fast forward, at that point I'm getting a phone call. I remember adjusting my seat. I'm trying to fix my hair. I was like, "Yo, I'm about to speak to Voddie." I was in bad shape. I don't even know why I was even thinking about that. But you know, I was like, "Yo, I'm about to speak to Voddie." And I remember answering the phone, and I just saw him right there. He was like, "Ryan." I was like, "Yo, Voddie, how are you?" He was like, "Man, I heard what happened, man. Like, it's crazy how you're still here right now." I was like, "Yeah, man, you know, the Lord is gracious, and it's just a miracle, and you know, this is a testimony, this and that." And I'm just trying to like talk to him. And at this point, at the time, it was probably like 9:30 or so, or 9:15. And there was just way too many people around, so we couldn't hear what I was saying, so we couldn't really conversate. So he was like, "Bro, I can't hear you right now, bro. Just get better, man. Just get better. Just get better, man." And at that point, I pretty much had to end the call with him, so I was able to briefly talk to Voddie. So that wasn't the best convo, but Paul Washer was good. Man, it was late at night too. At the point when I had to talk to Paul Washer, It was like probably like 10:15, and I'm on meds, you know what I mean? So I'm like droopy. I'm like, oh, bro, like I was literally about to knock out. The only thing that kept me up was the fact that I was about to speak to Paul Washer. So next thing you know, I get another FaceTime call, and it's Paul Washer just right there. It was like surreal. I was like, answer the phone and I see him, and then he was like, Ryan. I said, hey Paul, how are you? He said, no, how are you? I said, hey, you know, just a bump in the road. I've seen better days, but you know, all is well in the Lord. And then he said, you'll do anything to get attention, huh? I said, nah, chill. What do you mean? Because he basically was saying that I orchestrated a car crash so I could be able to like talk to him and stuff, which is crazy. Paul Washer is known for his rebukes and how zealous he is and how passionate he preaches, but he is so meek and gentle and kind and peaceful. Like the way he, like just his tone in his voice, like it literally like sounded like soothing waves, man. All right, I think I'm getting too deep, but and then he was like, the Lord, I guess the Lord really has a plan for your life, you know. And I was telling him about the crashing situation, and I was like, yeah, man, like the fact that I'm still here, and you know, I flipped over 7 times, I got ejected out of the vehicle, and the injuries that I have, it's just a miracle. And I'm just reiterating that. And he's like, yeah, man, you know, and he's just kind of conversating with me back, and then he ended up praying for me over the phone. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, a lot of people have prayed for me. Shout out to people in the Founders Conference who paused the whole congregation to pray for me. Shout out to Grace Church, shout out to Miami Bible Church, shout out to Grace Baptist Church. There's many churches and many people that prayed for me. But if you get prayed on by Paul Washer, prayers of a righteous one avails much, you know you're gonna be straight. So maybe that's why I have such a speedy recovery now and such a fast healing process. But he ended up praying for me over the phone, and that was great. So at this point, I was able to be discharged by Monday. No, heck no. I was able to be discharged by Saturday, and I ended up going to the housing place I was initially supposed to be at, and I ended up going to service that Sunday because they had the early morning service, literally 8 a.m., top of the morning. I ended up having to go to service. And I know, and I was able to hear and I was able to hear Voddie preach. It was preaching because the center of Founders Conference, the main focus was to talk about biblical anthropology, so the study of mankind and what is man, total depravity, like that was the main focus. So his sermon was on us and them, so basically the righteous compared to the wicked, and it was really, really good. It was based on, it was really good. I don't even know I'm about to get in depth, but it was lore. Just know it was lore. So after the service, it was so funny because I remember Voddie, everybody knew I was there at that point. And Voddie was like, yeah, I want to speak to him or whatnot. And I remember like kind of walking towards the exit because I was waiting like a good like 30 minutes to try to talk to him. And a lot of people kept talking to him. So I was like, bro, you know what? I'm going to walk to him because he said he was going to come to me. And he didn't come to me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to him. And I remember walking and some dude opened the door. Like at this point, I'm at like Grace Baptist Church. That's where I was. That's Tom Askell's church. If you don't know who that is, Tom Askell is he's the president and the founders of Founders Ministry, and he's the senior pastor at Grace Baptist Church. Some dude opened the door, and it was like a little like a library. It was like a low key spot. It was just funny. It was like a little low key spot, and he opened the door. It looked like a secret room, and it looked like a little library. There was books everywhere. I remember going inside, there was a family in there. I saw Tom Askell. I saw Voddie sitting down. And in my head, I was like, yo, what? And, you know, I forgot who was, somebody came in the room or somebody like introduced me to Voddie and Tom and telling me like, hey, this is the guy, you know, that we were praying for. This is the guy that got into accident, flipped over 7 times, got ejected. And then Voddie was like genuinely shocked. Like he genuinely was, I don't know the word for it, but it was like he actually knew me, man. It was like he had like such a concern for me. It was just crazy. He was like, oh my goodness, man. Like, how are you? Like he was very soft to like speak to me and like ask me questions, which was pretty crazy. You know what I mean? I'm telling him everything, you know, like all is well, kind of reiterating what I've been saying before, you know. So we're having like that small talk or whatnot. And I'm speaking to Tom at that point. And then Tom asked me if I had a Voddie book, and he said, and I was like, no. So I guess this is one of his most famous books. It's Fault Lines. So he's like, bro, you know what? He didn't say bro. He said, you know what? I'm gonna give you this book, and Voddie is gonna sign it. So I was like, bro, that's amazing. That's awesome. What the heck? So Voddie ended up giving me his Fault Lines book, and then Tom Haskell ended up, not Tom Haskell, Tom Haskell gave Voddie the Fault Lines book, and then Voddie signed it. And then I remember asking Voddie for a picture. We ended up taking a picture together. So that is what you're going to see right now, which was dope. I ended up taking a picture of Tom Haskell as well, because why not? He's the homie too. I didn't know him as much before the Founders, but now I'm definitely knowing him, and I'm going to be typing into like the sermons that he preached at the Founders Conference, because I didn't get to finish watching them. The one that I did see was Paul Washer, of course, which was so peak. Like, I wish I was there, man, but the Lord's sovereignty, I had to go through this. The Lord's in control. So, yeah, that was great. So, yeah, I was able to meet Voddie Baucham personally, get a signed autograph. I got a lot of books and just a lot of love and care, honestly, just from everybody who was there, from the medical staff to my church family, man. There's really so much I can say. Just the amount of love that I had, it was overwhelming. It really was. I had to hold back tears many times. And I remember there was this guy named Eric, not Eric Bancroft, but this guy Eric. All the Erics are cool. Eric ended up like taking us home, me and Jeremiah. And I remember when he dropped us off, because we went to a rendezvous point, and then there was another friend, like Jeremiah's friend, that took us like to my destination, to my house. Man, I remember when he dropped me off, I had to hold back tears and just say thank you for everything, just your love and everything. And there were so many people that just were like helping me in little ways, and I was just like, man, like, thank you so much. It was just surreal, man. It really was surreal, the amount of love that I received. And you know, I had to hold back tears then. And I remember when I got dropped off at my house, when I came home that day, I bawled out. Like, I remember after I got put my stuff in my house, and I was saying bye to Gregory, which was the gentleman that dropped me home. I remember I was like, you know, thank you for everything, you know what I mean? I was like, I've been holding my tears all week. I was like, man, thank you. You know, I cried out. Even Jeremiah, I hugged him, just crying out, man, thank you for everything. I remember going to my house, walking up and down my hallway for like a good 5 minutes, just bawling out in tears, just like not believing everything that I went through, honestly, and just seeing the Lord's miracles, the Lord's grace, and just the testimony that he now has on display, just of his glory. And just what I experienced was traumatic. It really was. And I look back at that situation just many times, and the whole crash just replays in my head, and I just, man, do you know that over 80% of people who go through a car accident like that and gets ejected, 80% of them is fatal? Less than 1% of people who actually survive don't have any traumatic injuries, any life altering. Less than 1%. You know what I mean? So, like, the Lord really has a plan for me, and whatever you're going through, trust God. I don't have any more to say. But yeah, the Lord is good, and the Lord is sovereign. Whatever the elect goes through, it is for a purpose. It is for a reason. Trust in that. Meditate on what you're going through in the trials, and don't look at the trial as a bad thing. Look at it as character development, as your character is going to further grow in Christ Jesus. I'm glad to still be here, honestly, even though I almost went home. That would have been better, but there's a lot of stuff that I feel that the Lord has inspired me to do, so there's obviously a reason why I'm still here. Once again, just want to thank everybody, my brothers and sisters in Christ, everybody who visited me, even in the hospital, Erlyn and Philip who visited me, Christian who visited me, Pastor, my elders, Pastor Eric, all of my elders visited me. Thank you guys. Chris Noel, you visited me. Shout out to you, bro. Renee, you visited me. Much love, homie. Julia and Thiago visited me. Shout out to you guys. Who else visited? Melissa and John Lasseter visited me. Shout out to you guys. Even the people who wanted to visit me, Hannah and Tara. Much love to you guys. I appreciate the gesture. Ray, I know you wanted to visit me, and your parents. Thank you guys. And I can go on, and then I can talk about the amount of DMs that I received from me posting that I got into this accident, and everybody who has reached out and has my condolences and prayers and everything like that. And just I thank you guys. Thank you. Bro, why am I crying, yo? Alright, well, with that being said, I'm definitely going to be back on the grind. I can't go to the gym, so I don't mean that kind of grind, but, growing in the grace and knowledge of Jesus Christ, my content, I have a big responsibility now. I'm in leadership roles. We're going to be getting busy 2023. This is our year. We're on go. Until next time.